Good morning, welcome to FolkScape's live streaming of the Sidmouth Folk Festival. This is the Monday morning lunchtime concert, starting off with the English fiddle ensemble, and they'll be coming on first, but then it'll be a man who needs hardly any introduction in the folk world, John Tams. Think of the National Theatre, War Horse, the Globe, Help for Heroes, and way back rather historically, Muckram Wakes, Albion Band, Home Service, and for millions of people outside the folk world, this familiar face is that of Rifleman Hackman in the adaptations on television of Bernard Cornwell's Richard Sharp books, The Napoleonic Wars. We'll talk about that a little bit later. John, it is a privilege to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming.
That's kind of you. That's quite a build-up.
Not at all, but it's a well-deserved build-up.
No wonder my shoulders are sagging.
Well, that's all right. You'd be carrying a gun. Sidmouth,
Yeah.
This is probably a fantastic folk festival, of course. What does it mean to you?
Well, it means 40, maybe 50 years of coming to the festival. And I came in the 60s when it was mostly contained in a beach store with lots of deck chairs. And people, before we had amplification and all that manner of thing, before the tech hit. So it goes back a long way, and I enjoyed it then. And we used to bring a big contingent down from my home county, which is Derbyshire, and so we all camped. And it's not got any worse. It's just got better and better. Now you need to be some sort of Olympian to see all the events that's on there.
Well, I think there are several hundred events going on. There's no possibility of seeing everything that's happening.
As we speak.
Yeah.
There's a dozen or two things happening this very moment before we start the concert next door.
Tell me, what's in your set today? What are you planning today?
I'll do some, hopefully, social commentary, a little bit of that, which I've always done. Some country songs that I collected in the early 70s. From an old singer in Derbyshire. Bit of light, a bit of shade, hopefully a wry smile and a tear or two, I hope. And a song about Ukraine.
Well, that's very apposite. You've mentioned the songs you're collecting. You are a great collector of folk songs and an archivist of folk songs. The Clare set is probably some of the most important work you've done almost as a historian.
Yes, that was 40... maybe more years ago. First time I'd acted as a producer and engineer on a field recording trip, and we made, I think, about 8 albums altogether. But with the Russell family in particular in Doolin in County Clare, were remarkable musicians who were playing almost music of a century previous. Very old-fashioned style, delicate, fine tracery. Nothing flash or fast or anything like that, just really engaging men, all brothers, and quite entertaining, especially after a few Guinnesses.
Well, that's always quite an important... I've noticed, as I've been at this festival and learnt about folk music, that pints of something are an extremely important part of this culture.
Oh, it is. It's central. I mean, most of the songs, even the old ones, 200 years old, were sung around a flagon or two. So, yeah, and there's some very fine brews available here. I'm rather a wine drinker, me and Dean Martin.
I'm going to pretend that it is too early for me to have a drink at this point. But you've written so much, or you've created so much music for theatre and television, and the sort of discipline there is that you're writing for a specific subject matter or a specific audience. So, does it help to have in mind the recipient of what you're creating, rather than just to freestyle it?
Well, there's lots of jobs involved in writing commissioned and in theatrical conditions, either film or stage. It takes, it can move time. It can put people who have just fallen out over a gin and tonic coming and sitting down saying, now you're in America in the 20s, if you're doing or 30s, if you're doing Of Mice and Men. Just, you're safe with us. There you are in the Midwest. Or it can just alter, it can flood a stage with waters, 1,000 gallons, or you can sing a song about seamanship and maritime warfare. That does the trick, but you've only got a few seconds. You don't want to overstay your welcome. That's what the play is going to do. Let them be the narrator, the storyteller, and you add in a cherry and a little cream here and there.
Well, it's sort of the words, I suppose, carry the narrative,
Yes.
and the intellect, to be rather grand about it, and the music carries the emotion. Would that be right?
I think so. A director I worked with on a play with Paul Schofield called Don Quixote or Don Quixote. I made a song for that, and the director said, if you do that song, there's really no point in us doing the play. So he cut it, quite rightly.
You don't take work away from other people. Very politely, I'm going to suggest that you're a bit of a veteran in the folk world. You said that you've been coming here to Sidmouth since the 1960s. How has it changed in the last half century or so?
It's difficult. It's kick-started itself again quite robustly after COVID. All went quiet in every department, especially in the performing arts, whether it be folk music, theatre, ballet, opera, whatever. Everything went dead stop. But it's kick-started itself. We are of an age now, some of us, and some of my audience, there's just maybe 2 or 3 are even older than I am, but it would be good to see some more youngsters, and this festival does encourage and cater for youngsters as well. So it's doing fine, I was very moved last night sitting in the Bedford Hotel listening to some fiddlers and pipers and squeezebox players. Just wonderful commitment to and passion for the style. For the community spirit of what folk music is about. It's all it is. It's a community.
Well, you're walking around Sidmouth this week in August, and the age range goes from about sort of 7 years old to 93, yes. And you notice that every other person on the streets has a musical instrument on their back.
Yes, they do. I'm sure they all come away with lumbago or some sciatica or some problem. You see people laden with instruments sometimes. Yeah, the people will come here, not come to a concert, just spend their time in the bar playing good tunes and making good friends.
You have a bit of future plans, I take it. Are you recording? Are you touring? What's coming up on your schedule?
Really, my wife Sally thinks I should record, but I'm confounded by the streaming scenario and all that sort of thing.
Well, that's us, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, I'm not knocking the moving image, just audio streaming. I'm not sure. I've written a children's book, which is coming out at Christmas. Trying to revive with all the National Theatre players Warhorse to come back on tour again. As for my touring, I'm selective now. I don't travel too far, although this is a long way from Derbyshire, but I pick little red letter places to go.
I think you better plug that children's book. What's it called and who's publishing it and where can we get it?
Oh, it's called The Bear Went Over the Mountain. And it's in 2 parts. One is a book that the reader reads and then puts aside, out of arm's reach. And the other is a picture book that tells the narrative in some way. And then the reader, or the teller, tells the book freestyle, not allowed to look at the script. And in the hope that, having tried it a few times, and each time it will be different, then the listener, the child, will then take over the teller's role. It's just to encourage freestyle storytelling, really.
Well, and so the pictures, as it were, are going to create a different story in every single head that sees them.
And they cue in the narrative, and you can improvise. You can remember what you can, forget what you like, improve it.
What's it called again? Just get that
The
up.
Bear Went Over the Mountain.
I have to ask about Sharp and Rifleman Hackman, if you don't mind. I know it's a while ago and you must get a bit bored about this.
It's 30 years.
Oh, good Lord, is it? Well, that's almost halfway back to the Battle of Waterloo.
Oh, yes. I'm the only person standing here today who actually got killed at the Battle of Waterloo.
Oh, I remember that. That was a bit sad, wasn't it?
That's
Yes.
a spoiler, is it? It was for me.
I think it's a bit late for that now. But I just do want to put the point that on your side, there was King George, squires, exploited labourers in the countryside, mid-industrial revolution, people living in squalor and paid nothing for working 28 hours a day. And on the other side, there was the leader of the commander of the armed wing of the Enlightenment, the Age of Reason, tradition, freedom, liberty, equality, and the rights of man. Are you sure that you were the goodies?
No, well, that's a good question. You'd probably have to question Sean Bean about that, who played Richard Sharp. I always try to inject a certain amount of groundedness in it, and early socialism, possibly. Bernard Cornwell said, we have to have a token socialist on the team. So that was me, so that was okay.
Well, you did give the character a certain amount of world-weary, not cynicism ever, but scepticism, I think.
I can do scepticism, yeah.
And you did sing. I've still got that as an earworm, Over the Hills and Far Away, comes into my head. It's inescapable.
Well, we'll be singing it. I'll be singing it today. I'll be singing it late, because if I sing it at the beginning, everyone clears off. So I sing it at the end, and they'll have to stay.
John, I don't think anybody's going to be clearing off, and I hope you enjoy the performance as much as I know the audience will. Thank you very much.
I've enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.